Mm-hmm.
On the balcony talking.
Yeah. We be having a blast.
I can't even get my phone to work today.
Is it charged?
Yeah, sure.
You got a little bit of life in there. Where's your charger at?
Huh?
Where's your charger at? Oh. Is it plugged up? Yep. You don't really know how to work that phone anyway. You don't. All you know how to do is play games. But you playing some music. You play some music. You play good music though. You don't talk on the phone because your ass can't hear.
Well, that'd be number 2. That'd be number 2 right there. I also.
Oh my God.
I do more listening to my phone.
I know, because you be jamming. I came in one night and you was jamming. I was like, look at that. On the speaker. He was playing Bobby Womack.
He'll never lose that talent. He plays music. That's a talent he'll never lose.
Yeah. He talked shit to me though. Last time I took him to the doctor and we was listening to music on the way and Tina Marie came on Square Biz and he was like, where's the bass? I was like, I blew my speakers, Dad. He was like, oh shit, you might as well turn it off. He's like, you might as well turn it off. I was like, Dad, you gonna do me like?
I know you lying.
I'm not lying. I'm not lying. You said that. Remember we was going down when I was taking you to the doctor and Tina Marie came on and you was like, where's the bass? And I was like, I blew my speakers. And he was like, you might as well turn that shit off. You don't ever remember talking crazy to me.
I don't talk about very much. Not very much.
Okay.
Yeah, I be sitting here. I see the phone ringing that long, you know.
Yeah, I know. Cause ain't nobody. They ain't really talking about nothing anyway.
Yeah, we do.
They ain't talking about nothing. Right.
That's why you don't ask.
Huh? Because I be talking about something.
Oh, yeah.
That's why. I'll be talking about something. And you know what, Dad? I can't even believe that you are even going there with me. Because I'm not on my phone all day. It's just whenever you see me, I'm conducting business.
Yeah.
He said, yeah.
Yeah.
You gonna believe that? Why not? You don't believe your daughter's taking care of business?
You don't believe I'm taking care of business? What you think I'm doing? Just talking. You think I got that much to talk about?
Yeah.
Right.
You admitted it earlier. You on the phone all the time.
I said, because I'm conducting business. If you see me with the phone up to my ear, I'm conducting business. But if you see me with the phone in my hand, I'm probably also conducting business, but I'm also scrolling. What I'm talking about? I said I'm conducting business.
He want to know what
I'm
business
setting appointments. I'm setting up appointments.
You said it twice. Why?
Because I didn't think you heard me the first time.
That's all you trying to do.
No. I'm setting up appointments to make money. That's not what I'm supposed to do? I'm not supposed to set up appointments to make money?
Set up appointments. Not every time I see you.
How do you know when you don't even know what I'm talking about?
Because I do know for real.
You do know? How do you know?
You ain't talking about shit.
Shit, I'm done.
First of all, you can't even hear. Like, you can't even hear, so I don't even know how.
Right. Even though she ain't talking about shit.
Exactly. You can't even hear.
Did you hear what I just said?
No.
Oh, you got that little setup thing on your phone, so that don't take about 3 seconds.
What little setup thing?
No, what if you call me about my child? That's
Oh, he talking about your voicemail.
Can't be talking. You can't tell me. You can't know the.
So I have to answer those messages. I have to get back to those people and answer those messages and set up the appointments.
It takes long as you say.
So you said I should be a little bit more efficient.
Yeah.
Oh, so I don't. Okay. Thank you for this business advice. Thank you. I appreciate that. I do. I never knew you had such wisdom. I would have been coming to you a long time ago, asking you for some business tips. I should have. I should have. Well, when you get back from your little excursion to St. Louis and you get back to the house, maybe we can sit down and we can have a meeting and you can give me some more tips. Because I'm always willing to learn.
Should be.
And am.
Everybody should be.
And I am. I'm excited because I didn't know you had this knowledge.
No, shit, girl, what's wrong with you? Hell, come on now. Hell, shit.
I didn't know you had this knowledge, Dad. I didn't.
You been a businessman all your life, ain't you?
Yeah.
I don't want to be.
But sometimes you gotta be.
Oh, you ain't gotta be.
Yeah, I gotta be. If I want to be in control of my money.
We asked 100 women, on a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable is your bra?
Dad, I'm about to go back to Uncle Gary's and get me some fish because he is frying me fish for my birthday.
You what?
Uncle Gary is frying me fish for my birthday.
Who's doing what?
Uncle Gary
You know what?
is frying me fish for my birthday.
Good. You like fish? No?
Yes, I do.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you like fish?
Huh?
All different kinds.
The kinds that he be cooking. Yeah.
You like fish? You like fish?
Hell yeah.
Oh, okay. All different kinds?
I don't know. I ain't ate all different kinds.
He got stuck for a minute.
I ain't ate all different kinds.
Did he tell you happy birthday today?
No. But he meant it.
Oh, okay.
He didn't tell me, but he
You
meant
know what
it.
I didn't know though?
Did you know today was her birthday?
Yes, Mama, I told you.
Different kind of license for different kind of things.
I didn't know that either. I got a fishing license.
Not around here, but like you were out there in the ocean.
But I don't think I really have to cook. I just be wishing that I just be fishing in one spot.
In one spot.
Yeah, if you go on what's the name boat or some other kind of boat, you get a different kind of license.
Yeah.
You go get a different kind of license with this guy. Oh shit, man. I run into some money shit.
Get out a different kind of
Let's
license.
start running into some money.
Mm-hmm.
You all right? Is it all right? Okay, I believe you. Let me pour you things, okay?
So I'm about to go back over here and get this fish.
Yeah. I think you should.
I I am.
Get some for me too.
I am. You want me to bring you some?
Nah, keep right free.
It don't be the same, huh? I know. I be saying the same thing. Like, I gotta get my shit right out the grease. Otherwise, it ain't no point.
25 seconds on the clock, please.
Yeah.
When we asked 100 women,
It was good to see you.
1 to 10, how comfortable
Well,
is your bra?
I guess good to see you when you ain't all engaged in fighting and shit.
Ain't nobody fighting. No, who told you I was fighting?
I don't know.
Who told you I was fighting?
Little puppet.
Ain't nobody told you I was fighting. We don't even run in the same circles. Who told you I was fighting?
Not the same circles.
Yes.
Yeah, she probably told me one.
And you go throw your daughter under the bus.
What you said?
Oh my gosh. But yeah, I did tell you that she caught an assault charge. I did tell you that. Yeah, I did tell you
That was
that.
a long time ago.
Look, she's changed.
I don't fight no more.
She's changed. She don't do that no
I stay
more.
at home and mind my own business. I don't deal with people.
Welcome back to the audacious. Look, the audacious. Well, welcome back, audacious ones. That's what we're going to call y'all. Our community, you are the audacious ones. Welcome back to the Audacity podcast. I am one half of your hosting group duo, Shadanica Nicole, and I'm doing my solo episode this week. Yay. Elise did a great job on hers as well, so we want to clap that up for her. This week, I'm going to talk about my experience with loss, but on a different level. I have not lost a job because I haven't really had a quote-unquote job in probably 10 years, really, because I'm an entrepreneur. But I do know what it's like to lose a job, so we're not going to make that any small. We're not going to make that small at all. My experience with loss we're going to recap 2025 for me. I have a lot of people that have been reaching out to me and, kind of trying to check in, friends, family, loved ones, and things like that. They've been trying to check in with me to see how I'm doing because just this past November, I lost my father. And it's been a real interesting road. Actually, it was a very interesting road leading up to that point. 2025 was a year of major milestones for me, major changes, major experiences. So I'm just going to go down the line, and I have notes because I need notes. I'm just going to go down the line and just speak about that in terms of loss and grief. Really kind of at the beginning, first I'll speak about, I was married. I got married in 2023. After being in a relationship for at least off and on for about 13 years with an individual, and we had a very up and down, very turbulent relationship. We broke up at least 5 times. I know. But I finally decided, I was like, okay, if we're going to do this, because we keep coming back to each other, so if we're going to do this, then let's do it all the way. So we decided to get married, and we got married in 2023. And I will be honest, it was like the moment that we got married, it was like all hell broke loose in the relationship, all hell broke loose in my life and everything. So it was just like, okay, maybe this is one of those things where I, shouldn't have just jumped into, because I'm normally kind of like a person that once I decide to do something, I just kind of go for it. So everything just got really thrown out of whack. He ended up retiring from his job. He had to have a major surgery where I basically had to wait on him hand and foot, which was not a problem for me because that's just the kind of person that I am. That's never a problem for me, especially if I am a wife. And I'm a natural nurturer and caregiver anyway, so that wasn't a big deal for me. But it was just, as soon as you say I do, and a lot of people I know that are married can attest to this, as soon as you say I do, that's when the marriage starts. The marriage doesn't start when, it's the wedding and all those things, but as soon as you say I do, and then as soon as you hit a bump, that's when the actual marriage part starts. That's when the major tests begin. And how you show up in those moments, it can really determine how the rest of your marriage can go. And how I showed up and how he showed up was two totally different situations, and ended up being, the demise of our relationship. And also, the red flags that I ignored in the beginning became major, major red flags once we got into our marriage. And so it was just a real turbulent situation from beginning all the way to end. And in the middle of that, my father's health took a turn for the worst. And I was already contemplating divorce anyway, but I was trying to plan, because I'm a planner. I was trying to plan and get my money, stack my money, get my money right, so I could go off, on my own and be in my own space and things like that. And I got a phone call from my father at 11:30 at night, which was very odd, because number one, I hadn't spoken to my father in at least probably 3 or 4 months, maybe even longer, and I'll get into that later. And number two, he was calling me from the hospital. So immediately I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what's happening? So I answered the phone, and he's like, Shadanica, something just woke me up out of my sleep and told me, you need to get your divorce, you need to come up out of there, and you need to get your divorce done, and you need to come up out of there. And I'm like, first I'm tripping, because I'm like, Dad? Because he never calls me, and he definitely never calls me and gets in my business like that. So I'm tripping off that. And then I'm thinking, you're in the hospital, like, what is going on? And he was just like, I was like, well, Dad, I'm trying to save up my money. I'm trying to get myself together so I can get into my own space. And he was like, well, you don't need to worry about all that. We got this big ass house over here where we live, and you could just come and stay with us. And I was like, well, Dad, because he's married, with a wife or family, whatever. And I'm just like, Dad, maybe you should talk to your wife about that first. And he was like, I really don't need to, but if it makes you feel comfortable, then I will. I am mind blown by this, because never in my life has my dad ever offered me a place to stay. And just to give you a background on that, is just like, we did not have the typical father-daughter relationship. I felt growing up, I was somewhat of the black sheep. I felt somewhat like I was the outcast, even though I was the second oldest. I always tell people, like, I may have had my dad the longest, but I may be the oldest, but I had him the least, because I was not the child that he chose to raise. I was not the child that he championed for. I was not the child that he, I didn't live under his roof my whole life, and I did not have his guidance in my life my whole life. Like, I was actually introduced to my father when I was 2 years old. So if that gives you any inkling of how that went. And I never really felt like he liked me very much, let alone loved me. Like, I can probably count on one hand how many times he told me that he loved me. The matter of fact, the first time he told me he loved me, I was 18, and he was getting ready to walk me down the aisle. Totally different thing. I was not, I didn't receive affection from my father, so I don't know what that's like. I just don't know what it's like to have the father-daughter dynamic that most people have. Growing up, and then when I got older into my teen years, we became more like homies than anything. Like, we bonded over music, because my dad was a DJ, so we could spend hours talking about music, or talking about what was going on in our small town, other than working on our relationship. So for him to offer me a place to stay was really just out of the ordinary, and it kind of made me scared. So I took some days. I told him on the phone that I would do it just, to appease him, because I knew he was in the hospital, and I didn't want him stressing about it. But I took some time. And matter of fact, I took it so much time that he was out of the hospital, and I still hadn't moved in yet. And he kept calling me. And I was like, oh my gosh, why does he keep calling? And he was like, you need to go ahead. We just trying to check in. We're getting your room together. We're getting everything situated. I'm just trying to check in to see when you're going to be coming. So then finally I was just like, you know what? I need to do this, And in between that time, I had the discussion with my then husband that this situation was not going to work out for me, and you know, I didn't see a way for us to work things out, and you know, we just needed to part ways. We needed to get a divorce. And I think there was a little bit of denial on his part, because I don't even think he realized the severity of it. Like, I don't think he thought that I was going to file. I don't think he thought I was actually going to move out. I think he had it in his mind that I was going to go and stay with my father and help take care of my dad while he was ill, and, you know, come back and forth. And that was simply not the case, which he quickly learned. So I packed up and I moved out, and I moved in with my dad and his wife. And it was the most awkward, weird thing. And everybody was telling me, this is going to be good. You know, this is going to be a good thing, and you guys are going to be able to bond, and you're going to be able to grow y'all's relationship and repair y'all's relationship. I think this is going to be a great thing. And really, to be honest, it wasn't. Like, it was, but it wasn't, because like the first couple of weeks, it was like, okay, dad's home, dad needs help. You know, I got to make him breakfast, which is something that I've never got to do before. I've never got to really cook for my dad. I got to make him breakfast. So those were fun times. And he was a jokester, so I mean, we did have some funny moments, but there were also glimpses of my past childhood, you know, things growing up with him, and the way he used to talk to me and the way that he used to treat me. I could see that kind of creeping up some more during certain situations. And so I just kind of felt myself, instead of growing and blooming in the situation, I felt myself shrinking back to that little girl who was just really wanting her dad to choose her, wanting her dad to accept her, wanting her dad to acknowledge her. And that was kind of weird. That was really kind of awkward. So it was like, when you speak about grief and loss, like, I had to grieve a relationship that I never got. Like, I had to grieve what I thought was going to be. Like, I had to grieve an apology that I never got. And speaking of apologies, it was so funny, because that first night that I was in the house, he mentioned my youngest sister. And he was talking about how he needed to reach out to her, and apparently I did something to her and I need to apologize to her. And I was like, oh, so we on an apology tour right now. You going around apologizing to people. You're repenting, you know. And we just cracked jokes about that. And he was like, well, do you feel like I need to apologize to you? And I, you know, jokingly but seriously, I was like, yes I do. And he's like, well, I'm sorry. You know, the way he just kind of threw that out there, and we laughed about it. But it was like, you know, that I had to realize, you know, in that moment, that was the best as I was going to get. And I had to be okay with that. And so I just kind of chopped it up as, okay, this is the reason why he asked me to come here. Like, maybe this is his way of, you know, repairing things. Maybe this is his way of showing that he's sorry. And over the years, I noticed that I would do that for him. Like, I would make those types of excuses. You know, I got to the point where I was like, okay, this is how we love each other. If he called me and was snapping on me about something, or if he was cracking jokes about something a decision that I had made in my life, you know, I looked at it like, okay, this is just his way of showing me that he loves me. It was his way of showing me that he's concerned. So that was how I got through that. That was how I worked my way through that. So coming back full circle and being under the same roof with him, it felt like, in a way, that I was kind of going like backwards. Like, I was punishing myself, because I had gotten comfortable with just not being around. I got comfortable with not hearing from him unless it was, you know, something going on in the family, or Super Bowl, or, you know, just something that he wanted to find out about, or, you know, something like that. So I had gotten used to treating our relationship like that. So for him to be a quote unquote father to me was just foreign, and it was just unheard of. So, but I did it, you know, and I was happy. I'm still happy that I did it, because we did have those little moments. Like, you know, he decided that he didn't want to just sit around and be bored anymore. So he started put together puzzles. And so there was a couple times when I would sit with him and help him put together puzzles. He got me back watching soap operas again, because after 50 years, like, my dad was still watching soap operas, and he was still up on Young and the Restless and The Price is Right. So there would be times if I was at home that day, I'd come upstairs and I would sit with him and we'd watch the soap operas together, you know. So there was those little moments that I did get to spend with him that I will, you know, that I'll cherish, because, you know, they were few and far in between when I was growing up. And we never got to have that deep conversation like, this is what you did, or this is what you didn't do, or this is how you made me feel, or I never got to have that. Even though my therapist suggested it, I just never felt comfortable. I did not feel comfortable doing it. And by this time, you know, Dad became hard of hearing, and his memory wasn't, you know, where it normally was. And so it was like a lot of things where I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna take this for what it is right now, and I'm just gonna deal and be in this moment right now. So I just took it as that, and that went okay. And then finally my birthday came around, so another milestone. I turned 50, and that was a whole nother mental mind state that I need to get into. But he was in the hospital on my birthday, and he called me. I was with my mom at my uncle's house, and he called me just to crack jokes about how old I was. That was the way he told me happy birthday. So if that gives you any inkling on how this relationship was, instead of saying happy birthday, he would just be like, oh, so what are you, 55 now? You know, so it's like, okay, cool. But I know that he meant happy birthday. And they were going to be transferring him to another hospital in St. Louis that next day. And so I decided, I told him, I was like, I'm going to come up there and see you before they transfer you. And he was like, well, you better hurry up. And it was just something in his voice in that moment that clicked inside of me that was like, I should go now. So when we hung up the phone, I went up to the hospital. Took my mom with me for comic relief, because I knew they were going to start going at each other, and it was my birthday, so I needed to get some laughs. So I took her, and they did not disappoint. So we get there, and he's sitting up on the edge of the bed. He had chicken that day. He was talkative. We were laughing. We were joking. We were cracking jokes, and you know, he was trying to give me business advice and things like that. And so I felt really good about the visit, and you know, nowhere did I feel like we were, you know, I wasn't gonna see him again. So I did take my phone out to take a video, which I'm glad I did. And before I left, I gave him a hug, and I told him that I loved him. And when I hugged him, he rubbed my back, and I almost broke down, because that's the most affection that I've ever got from my dad. It was a lot. But I didn't break down because I didn't want him to see me like that, and I didn't think he would understand. And I wanted it to be just a good moment. Like I wanted it to be a good moment. And so I just kept that. I just kept it to myself. Like, I didn't want to make a big deal about it. So I just kept that to myself until I got to therapy. So I saved that for my therapist. But that was the most affection that I had ever gotten from my dad. And I felt like in that moment, he was apologizing to me. And he was telling me that he loved me. Because a couple of weeks before that, we had gotten to a really bad argument. And he said some really bad things to me. And another first happened. I had to pick him up from dialysis. I know I'm switching around, but it's all going to come together. I had to pick him up from dialysis about a few days after we had that argument. And he said some really mean things to me. And I was bringing him into the house, and we had a chair set next to the door where he could sit down and rest in, because he was short of breath. He was having trouble breathing and walking. And so he sat in the chair, and he's like, I'm not ready to go up the stairs yet. And I said, okay. And so I sat on the steps in front of him. And I reached out for his hand, and I was grabbing his hand to, help him up out of the chair to go up the steps. And he said, no, I'm not ready yet. So I set him back down, and I let go of his hand. And he was like, well, hold my hand. And I just chuckled at that time because I was like, okay, he's sorry. So I held his hand. And the reason why I bring that up is because that was the first time. I was 49 years old, and that was the first time that I ever held my father's hand. And so I did. And so ended up helping him up the steps, and everything went on. Everything was fine after that. So fast forward to my birthday and him hugging me and rubbing my back. It was like, in that moment, it's like, okay, like maybe we're gonna get somewhere. Maybe we're gonna get to the point where we can have this conversation. So when I took out my phone to do a video, I told him, like, when you get home, because he was trying to tell me about my business. So when you get home, we can sit down and we can have a meeting. You can tell me how I can run my business more efficiently. And he said, yeah. And that was it. And I didn't know, but that would be the last time that I would see my father alive. Because when they took him to the hospital the next day, he was never awake again. And we had to end up taking him off the machines and letting him go. And after the doctor came in, it was me, two of my sisters, and his wife. We were in the room, and they took him off of everything, and we were all just kind of waiting. And the nurses told us, you guys can talk to him because we believe that he can hear you. You guys say what you need to say. Right now it's just about keeping him comfortable, and it's a waiting game. So everybody had left the room, and I decided to stay. My daughter called and asked to be put on speaker, and she said words to him. And when she hung up, I told him that I loved him and that I always loved him, no matter what happened between me and him, no matter how I felt about him at certain times, no matter how he even felt about me. I didn't care, but I always loved him. And I held his hand for the last time then. It was the second time that I only ever held his hand. And I put on his favorite song, and I played it, and he slipped away then. And then that's when everybody came back in the room. So I feel like I believe in God, and I believe everything happens for a reason, and I believe all of this was divine. There was a reason why I was the child that he called home. There's a reason why I was in that room. There's a reason why I had all of these moments. And maybe one day I'll get to the point where I feel comfort. But right now I'm feeling just numb. And I know that there's different stages of grief. And so I'm kind of in the middle of the comfort. I'm not comfort, but I'm feeling numb. Some days I feel angry because I feel like, dude, why did you call me home just so I could watch you die? But then I feel like maybe that is why, and he wanted me there. I don't know. Only God knows. And I really don't want to take the time to try to rack my brain to try to figure it out, because it's a lot. It's a lot to try to figure out. And so I've just come to just accept. I've accepted the way our relationship was. I've accepted the way things played out. We had his services, and I'm sitting there, and it's true what they say, like the front row of a funeral is way, way different. And I'm sitting there, and I'm listening to my sisters tell all these stories and give all these, accounts of him being their first love and the fun things that they did and the way the relationship that they had. And I'm sinking even more because it's like I'm older than them, but I don't have any of these stories. Like, I don't have any of these kinds of memories. I mean, I have a few, like bits and pieces here and there, but not like them. Like, I would never say he was my first love. Like, what? I will say that he was the first man that I, like, when I found out that he was my father, yes, I immediately loved him. You know, one of my favorite photos is a black and white photo I have of me and him, and we're standing next to a Christmas tree at my grandmother's house. That was the first day I met him, and I had the biggest smile on my face because it's like, oh my gosh, I'm meeting my dad. You know, but you know, after time goes on, and you're like, you could be walking down the street and see this person drive right past you and not even acknowledge you. It's like, that's not, yeah. So no, I wouldn't say that. I would say that he was probably supposed to be my first love, but he was not. And that's okay, because I believe, like I said, everything happens for a reason, and I went through what I went through in my life to make me who I am right now. And I experienced that so that I could help other women. And so it's my job now to work through that. It's my job to search through that and find the lessons and find the strategies and find the keys to getting through those types of situations and to help other people. Because not only did I have issues with him, but I mean, I grew up in an abusive environment away from him. So, and I feel like sometimes, had I had my father in my life to be my father, maybe those things would not have went the way that they went. But I'm not regretful of them, because it's given me a very powerful story and a very powerful testimony, which is why I'm still in his house right now. And I'm telling myself every day, like, I'm basement built, because I'm still living in the basement. And I'm writing a book. And this book, I don't believe, would not have been able to come to fruition if it was not for me being in this space that I'm in right now. Because everything that's coming to me, everything that's going into this project is coming from what I went through with my father, or the things I didn't go through with my father. Like, he had, you know, he told me when I was at the hospital visiting him one time that he was disappointed in me for getting married to the man that I married, because I knew who he was and I married him anyway. And I told him, I said, you know, you tend to be disappointed in me a lot with the choices that I make, especially when it deals with relationships. But I asked the question, do you think that I would have went through these things if I had known my father loved me? And to any woman out there right now that's listening, woman, girl, young girl, whatever, listening, like, think about that for a minute. If you've had issues with relationships, you know, issues with love, issues with, you know, needing validation from men, or, you know, things like that, think about, like, where was your father at in that, in your picture? And I asked him that, you know, like, do you think I would have made these same decisions if I knew my father loved me? And that's just, and he couldn't answer me. You know, he was real good at deflecting, so he would just kind of laugh it off like, oh, so it's my fault. No, I'm not saying that it's your fault, but in a way it is, because little girls need their father. You know, and here I am at 50, still trying to figure out where I'm supposed to be. Still trying to figure out who I am when it relates to relationships, especially, you know, with significant others. Like, am I looking for a father? You know, and I think in a lot of cases, a lot of us who grew up without our fathers, I think we are. We're looking for that father figure in that person. And so we over deliver a lot. We overperform. Like, I've always been taught, just simply by the way things went in my life, I've always been taught that if you're good, you get love. If you don't mess up, you get love. If you be quiet, you don't get love. If you do more than what you're supposed to do, you get love. So for me, it was like, I'm on the outside looking in at how my father treats my siblings. And I'm like, okay. So for me, it turned into, I just need to accomplish all these things. I went to school. You know, even though I was an 8th grade dropout, I went back. I got my GED. I went to cosmetology school, got a license. Boom, was doing hair. Boom, went to college. Didn't finish college, but I did get some credits, okay? You know, I went to massage therapy school, became a massage therapist, run my own business successfully. I've been in the career coming up now 14 years, you know, stable. When I went to private business college, graduated, dean's list, straight A's, all these things. And I'm thinking, okay, now maybe he'll see me. You know, and when you think about it, that's how you do one thing is how you do everything. So that's how I started to show up in my relationships. And I feel like that's a real big reason why a lot of them failed. They failed because I was too busy trying to perform instead of like being my real, true, authentic self. I was too busy trying to perform for these people so they would not abandon me, so they would not reject me. And that's not love. That's not real, true, authentic love. It is not. You do not have to overperform. Love is just love. And when we come here to this planet Earth, we already have it within us already. So it's not something that we had to perform for. And I really hope that touches somebody, because that's something that I'm learning right now. It took for my dad to pass away for me to realize that I always had love. I've always been worthy of love. And I don't need to overperform to get that, because truth be told, I mean, we all are worthy of love. We all have love within us. I mean, not to jump too spiritual on you, but I mean, we are worth dying for. Jesus died for all of us. So I have adopted that mindset. Like, no longer am I overperforming to receive love because I already had it. Baby, I am worth dying for. And if you can't come into my life and see that already without me having to perform, then you don't need to be in my life. And so I have subscribed to that, and I stick to that. And I tell myself that every morning when I look in the mirror. When I talk to my coaching clients, I am a certified life coach now. When I talk to my coaching clients, I stress going to the mirror and speaking and affirming positivity over yourself, affirming love over yourself, because you are deserving and you are worth it. And so even though my dad didn't make me feel like that, I had to get to the point where, you know what, I got to tap into source. I got to tap into the one who created me. And even though he used my father to get me here, my father is not the one who knew me before I got here. So just tap into that. Tap into source. Tap into your creator, because that's where you're going to find out what you're here for. That's how you're going to find out what you're made of. That's how you're going to find out your purpose, and that's how you're going to find out who you really are. And I believe that being our most authentic self, becoming your most authentic self begins when you get into ruin. Ruin is the first step of transformation. I really believe that. And transformation is better than change, because change can be temporary, but transformation is permanent. And I'm striving towards transformation every day, all day. So if anybody is feeling like they're unworthy, take that. Run this back and listen to that, because you are worthy. You are worthy of love, and you don't have to overperform to get it. I did a Facebook video probably maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago about a bet that he made with me when I was 12 years old. When I was 12 years old, I was being moved from our hometown to go and live with my aunt. I was in foster care still, technically, but my aunt had become a foster parent so she could take care of me. Because my grandmother, who had also become a foster parent, who was his mother, was taking care of me at the time, and she was getting up there in age, and so the state decided that she was getting too old to take care of me. So I needed to be moved, and I couldn't live with him anymore because of certain situations that was going on. And they decided that they were going to put me with my aunt in Kansas City. And he came to see me before I left. And he was just like, so you going to the city? And I was like, yep, I'm going to Kansas City, going to live with my auntie. You know, I can be closer to my mom. And, you know, we'll get into my situation with my mom maybe in another episode. But he was just like, oh, okay, so you going to go up there and what you going to do? And I'm 12. So I'm like, I'm going to go live with my auntie and I'm going to school and da-da-da-da-da. You know, and he's like, yeah, well, I bet you. This was the bet. I'll bet you $50 that you will end up back here in Mexico, Missouri. Probably about 15 years old. You'll be back here, 15 years old, pregnant, living in the projects. And I looked at him and I laughed it off. But I was like, you know what? Bet. That is a bet, sir. Like, who says that to their daughter? But hey, he said it, and in the video that I had posted, it'll be somewhere in here, he lost that bet because I brag different. Because not only did I not end up back in Mexico at 15 pregnant in the projects, but I did not have my first child until I was 21 and married. Okay? So he lost that bet, and I posted the video because I had to laugh because he got away from here without paying me my $50. So he still owed me $50. So we're going to talk about that when I see him again. But yes, and I just thought at that moment, like, who says that to their child? You know? But it all worked out. It all worked out, and of course he later on in life claimed that he didn't remember it and all that. But those are the kind of things that stick to you. Like, if you're a father or a parent, period, like, think about the things that you're saying to your kids, because those are the types of things that stick out. Like, you can praise me all day long, but for you to tell me basically that I'm not going to end up being anything or about anything, like, that is just all types of wrong, okay? So just be careful. You know, be careful and be mindful of how you speak to your children. You know, I try to be mindful of how I speak to my children. You know, I try to do everything different than my parents did. I got a lot of things wrong, and I will admit that, and I've had those conversations with my children, and we continue to have those conversations today even. And, you know, that's why a big reason why me and my daughter started this podcast is because a lot of people are blown away by the relationship that I have with my kids, especially the people that really know me and they know the way that I grew up and they know what I come from. So it's really hard for them to believe that I have the bond that I have with my children. And it's all because I communicate with them and I'm honest with them. I don't hide anything from my children. Like, if they want to know something, they know they can come ask me. I've always had an open door policy. Like, they know they can come and ask me. They know they can talk to me about anything. So, and do they talk to me about everything? Probably not. But that's probably a good thing too, because they're adults and they have to live and experience life on their own. But eventually they'll come back and talk to me. So I don't worry about them at all. I have the natural worry that mothers have, which I think is never going to go away. But I don't worry about them being respectful and productive citizens in this world because they know better. And when you know better, you're supposed to do better, and they know better. So I don't worry about them in that way, and I don't worry about them as far as not feeling loved by me, because I know that I have poured into them and definitely tried to pour into them as much love as I possibly can. Have I dropped the ball? Most definitely, I'm sure I have. You know, but my moment is they don't feel uncomfortable telling me that. And that's my big flex. Like, I don't feel no type of way about how I mother, because they don't have a problem coming and telling me when I drop the ball. They don't have a problem telling me, you know, you made me feel this kind of way. And my biggest flex is I don't have a problem listening and saying, I am sorry for that. How can I do better? What can we do to make this better? Because that's what it's all about. It's all about the communication, especially between me and my daughter. You know, mothers and daughters, that dynamic is way different than it is with mothers and sons. I don't have that relationship with my mother, so I'm so grateful that I have it with my daughter, and we just learn along the way. Like, I tell them all the time, I'm just winging this whole mama thing. Like, because really, to be honest, truthfully, I don't feel like I had any business having children in the first place. I mean, I was just doing it because you get married, you got some kids. Like, yeah. So, like, I can't say that it was one of those things where I was like, oh my God, I just want to do this. But it was like, no, you get married, you have some kids. I had difficulty when it came down to it. And that was when everything kind of kicked in inside of me and was like, dang, like, I really do want to do this. Like, I really do want to be a mom, you know? So it took me losing a child to really tap into that, because I actually lost my first child. So I had to tap into that. And it's like, all right, I'm going to do this. And so when my daughter came along, it was like, all right, anything I could do to make her life better, or better than what I had, you know, that's what I'm going to try to do. And I didn't always get it right, but I kept trying. And I kept putting forth effort. And I kept the communication open between me and her. And I asked, even today, you know, I asked, you know, what is it that I'm not doing? Or is there something that I need to do more of? You know, what do you need from me? Because that's just who I am. And I wanted them to be better. I wanted them to be better, and I wanted to break this cycle. And my biggest flex is I feel like I've done that. And I feel like we continue to shatter the cycle every single day. And with this podcast, we're going to be shattering it even more. And I hope you guys continue to keep tuning in, keep liking, keep sharing, subscribe, have your own dialogue with your family and your friends. Let us know in the comments what your relationship is like with your parents, your mother, your father, or siblings, because we're going to be talking about sibling relationships as well. You know, we're going to be talking about intimate relationships as well, you know, divorce, marriage, relationships, period. Love, all of those things. You know, this is called the Audacity podcast because we have the audacity to have those hard conversations. If you want to know why our relationship is as tight as it is because we have the audacity to have those hard conversations, and we don't feel no type of way afterwards. We still walk away from each other with an I love you and a hug every single time. We can just be getting into a heated conversation, heated debate, even an argument, even yelling and cussing at each other or whatever. But before we leave each other, we say I love you and we hug. And that is the thing that we do. That is the thing that we do, and we never veer away from that. So we have those conversations in love, and that's what we want to get out to our community, and that's the type of community that we want to build. We want to make sure that we're having these hard conversations, but we're having them with love, and you can walk away not feeling shame, not feeling unworthy, not being upset, you know, just healthy, effective communication, healthy, effective dialogue. So that's what this podcast is about. And I thank y'all for tuning in. And we're going to see you next time with another episode of the Audacity podcast. Peace. So, what's up? So, I've been seeing this trend on TikTok where people have been like updating their loved ones that have gone on to glory. And I was just thinking, like, what would I talk to my dad about right now? Like, it's so much stuff that's been going on. And I'm just like, was just sitting here thinking to myself and just kind of praying a little bit and just kind of talking. And I'm like, I had to laugh because I was like, we made a bet when I was like 12. And he lost the bet. And he never paid me my money. So I'm trying to figure out, like, you know, does that like roll over? You know, do I need to like take up a collection throughout, you know, the people in the family, or the interest accrue, you know, after all these years, you know? And I'm just like, I mean, he was always giving me jokes and everything, but I just feel like he really did get the last laugh on me with this one. Because he really got away from me without paying me my money. Yeah. We'll have to see how we can rectify that.